Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing my May wrap up. I read 14 books in the month of May. I'm going to be reviewing all of them. If you're new here, how I do my wrap ups is I start with the books I like the least and then work my way up to the books I like the most. So I start with rants and end on raves. I do have some things to rant about today, baby. We're just gonna go ahead and get started because it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I have to start work after this. I need to wash my hair, which is why it looks terrible. I basically just like woke up and threw this jacket on, and I'm getting surgery in 3 days, and I'm also fasting, so I'm starving to death. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started because the quicker I get done with this, the quicker I can eat. Oh, I had 2 books that I gave 1 star in the month of May, and the first one is like the most popular horror book right now, and I think you guys know how I feel about general horror. I don't have the best track record, but this book I gave 1 star, and it's Diavola. Fuck this book. Fuck this book. I need to compose myself. We're following this woman. She is going on vacation with her shitty family to this villa or whatever, and like, it's haunted. Okay, that's the whole book. The problem is, this is all just a family drama, and like not even a good drama. Like, there are some books that are dramas that I thoroughly enjoy, and this book is like very annoying. They just bicker the whole time. Like, oh my god, I can't believe you made the guinea pig die when we were in middle school, the class pet. Who cares? Like, I mean, RIP to the guinea pig, but like, why is this in the book? Like, they just bicker about little things like that, and it's just so fucking annoying. And then, so it's like this whole thing is family drama, and this woman's family is gaslighting her and treating her like shit, and they're so mean to her, but like, she's also not the best person either, and it's just all non-stop drama. And then it's like, oh, this place might be haunted, and like from page 1 they kept saying, oh, this place might be haunted. What if this place is, you know, haunted? Do we really need that? Do we really need that much like foreshadowing? Because we already fucking know the place is haunted based on the summary of the book. Like, why do I need to read, oh, what if this place is, you know, haunted? That's literally how they talked throughout this book. And then our fucking main character, this main character brags about how she speaks Italian this entire book, and they're in Italy, and she's like, oh, let me translate for you because I know Italian, and I went to school and I took French and German and I learned Italian on Duolingo, and this whole thing was basically an advertisement for Duolingo. And she keeps correcting everyone's pronunciations, like, that's not how you pronounce that. Let me teach you, because I know Italian. I did Duolingo. Activated my reflex. Anyways, oh, I have a bruise on my knee too, and I just spanked my bruise. So yeah, anyways, then we get into the haunted elements, and this ghost, the scariest thing, I read this review on Goodreads that said the scariest thing about this ghost is that she had piss yellow hair. She kept talking about her yellow hair the entire book. This is not a spoiler, by the way. This book sucks. This book just sucks. The ghost makes her apartment look like a sepia filter of piss, and her duvet looks like piss, and there's moldy food. I mean, what? What is this? People are saying that this is scary. This is one of the worst fucking books I've ever read in my life. Fuck that book. Please hold, my camera's dying already. Next, I read this memoir that I gave 1 star, and it's Sociopath by Patrick Gagney. So this is about a, Where do I even begin with this one? So this is a memoir about someone who is antisocial personality disorder, and she has a PhD in psychology, okay? And it's kind of just like her life and how she has dealt with having antisocial personality disorder her entire life, and she tells stories and so on and so forth. People are giving this really great reviews. I gave it 1 star because I don't trust this fucking author. Apparently she has very sketchy credentials. Like, people aren't so sure about her credentials. I researched extensively online, and my friend found that she does have a PhD in psychology, but it was kind of almost like grandfathered in. Like, she got her, I don't know, she got like an undergrad degree, and then the program, like while she was in it, changed to a PhD program or something, so they just like gave her a PhD. I don't know the logistics or whatever, but then it's like no one can find her dissertation. There are just some sketchy things. She says that she was diagnosed as a sociopath, which isn't a diagnosis, it's antisocial personality disorder, and then she says that she prefers using the term sociopath, so I'm like, okay, whatever. But then there are websites where she says that she's diagnosed with sociopathic personality disorder, which is not a thing, and she has a PhD in psychology. There's just things that don't make sense. Throughout this book, she also tells like a whole bunch of crazy stories about her life, and you know, she mentions to us multiple times that she's a liar and a thief, which, like, okay. But then she keeps mentioning that she's a liar, and I'm like, okay, well, how much of this is true? Because when she's telling stories, she suddenly remembers these like super in-depth conversations and dialogue that she had from like 20 years ago with her therapist in college, and I'm like, there's no way that she remembers this. And then she even says that some things were like changed and fabricated. So I'm like, how much of this is actually a memoir and how much of this is just fiction? Like, is this auto-fiction? No one knows. No one knows. And then, what was the other thing? Oh, she tells these stories, like she told this story about how she just like walked into a party at the Playboy Mansion. I'm like, there's no way. Listen, I read Holly Madison's memoir. They had like security. Everything was super, like, you can only come in if Hugh Hefner invited you, sort of a thing. And she's like, oh no, I just walked in because I'm a sociopath and I just do things. Oh, and then she says that she was like sitting in Hugh Hefner's office and like stealing things from him. What? There's no way. There's just no way. Like, there were just so many things in this book where I was like, I don't believe you, Patrick. Goodbye. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Okay, now getting into the actual good books. So my first one, I have some like 3 stars, 3.5. My first one is High Life by Matthew Stokoe. This is a crime novel. It's like a murder mystery crime book with splatterpunk elements. Extremely well written, but we're following this guy who, his wife, who is a sex worker, is found murdered, and like her guts are cut open and hanging out and stuff. And so he goes on a mission to try to find his wife's murderer. But he lives in LA, and this book is just more so about like LA and the seedy side of Hollywood, and this guy is so desperate to get famous. He will do literally anything to become famous. He's just obsessed with himself. He's very narcissistic, and he's a really terrible, shitty person. There is not a single likable character in this entire book, but I love that. We are following him as he navigates like the sketchy side of LA, and there's lots of there's like a snuff film element, there is incest, I mean, necro. How much can I possibly say? Like, every trigger that you can imagine is in this book. My problem is I think it was extremely well written. I was like obsessed with it the first half. I was raving about this book, and then it just got so long. It's like 400 pages, and it really starts dragging, and that was the problem that I had with it, because I was like, oh my god, so much of this could have been cut out. Like, how much can I read like a splatterpunk crime novel. Doesn't have to be 400 pages, but I do think that it was really well written. It's kind of like a hidden gem. Everyone talks about cows. I don't ever see anyone talking about this book, but it's insanely, it's wild. It was just, I'm thinking back to the things that happened and I'm just like, holy shit. Like, James Patterson if he was edgy. But no, this book was like extremely well written. I highly recommend, if you don't mind longer books, to definitely check this one out. I was just mentally clocked out. Then I read Serge Tankian's Memoir, From System of a Down, Down with the System. So this is, of course, the singer of System of a Down. Absolutely love them. One of my favorite bands. I've listened to the album Toxicity like once a week since high school. I'm not even kidding. Like one of my favorite albums of all time. I'm obsessed with them. I'm so obsessed with them. Everyone knows that too. And of course, I had to immediately purchase this and read it. And I enjoyed it, but it's more so about him, like his activism and his beliefs, and he tells us all about the Armenian genocide and, you know, how he's more so an activist first and a musician second. We do get some insight to System of a Down and some like behind the scenes kind of stuff involving the band and their music, and I really enjoyed that. But for me, I'm dumb as a doornail, and I am not like the smartest or the most educated when it comes to politics or current like world events and stuff like that. I'm a little slow. Okay, I'm just being honest. So some of the things that he was mentioning and talking about, it kind of went over my head a little bit. I had to like Google things, and I just wasn't in the right mindset to be doing that. Very much like him and his beliefs and his stance on issues and shedding light on issues. And it's very much an immigrant's tale about his family and how, you know, he came to America. And I really appreciated that, and I love people who share their beliefs and aren't afraid to do so. And I've seen some reviews of people saying like, oh, well, I don't care about his beliefs, I only care about his music. Have you not listened to System of a Down? Like, literally all of their songs are based on their beliefs and like politics and world events. So like, what the fuck do you mean you only care about their music? That literally, that is their music. But anyways, yeah, just some things went over my head a little bit. So I ended up giving this a 3.5, but I still highly recommend, like, if you're a fan of System of a Down, to read this. And I definitely appreciate him teaching me a few things, but just be aware that this book is mostly about the Armenian genocide, kind of sprinkled throughout his life story and the band information. So it's very much a book about activism. Then I had a couple of 4 stars. Let's talk about them. The first one being My Husband by Maud Ventura. This is a book about a woman. It's literary fiction with like a slight thriller aspect at the very end, but it is about a woman who is obsessed with her husband. She's obsessed with talking about her husband. She's just obsessed with her husband. They've been married for I don't know how many years, but she's like, so, oh, I love my husband, I love my husband. And then one day he compares her to, he says if she was a fruit, she would be a clementine, and she finds that highly, highly offensive. So she starts spiraling, and she's like, oh my God, what if my husband doesn't actually love me? And she goes into this downward unhinged spiral where she starts doing crazy things because she's trying to like save her marriage. She's just wild, okay? This entire book, like I said, there is like a twist at the end. I thought that the twist was predictable to me because I've like read so many books that are similar to this, but a lot of people are obsessed with the ending, and I highly recommend this one. I really liked it. I thought it was a fun time. It was just like a fun, easy read. Nothing like, it's not like a masterpiece, but I enjoyed it. This is Hysteria by Ali Say. This one I read for an Unhinged Woman vlog this month. I'll leave it linked up above and down below. But this is 2 novellas. The first one is, it's extreme horror, and the first one is about a girl who has a mysterious side effect from her antiviral medication where she sees halos above child predators' heads, and her sister was abducted by a child predator when they were younger, and so she's seeking revenge. And then the second novella is about a woman with severe body dysmorphia, and she gets this electric knife and starts doing DIY plastic surgery on herself. It is disgusting, gory, horrific, but actually very, very well written for extreme horror, honestly. And I was just hooked. I needed to know what was gonna happen. I absolutely loved the first story. The second story almost made me throw up. But I think this has a lot to say in terms of feminine rage and body dysmorphia. So I love that. I don't love body dysmorphia, but I love books that give me an accurate representation of that. Next, I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Oteza Moshfegh, which was also in that Unhinged Woman vlog, where we're following a woman who is depressed and decides to sleep for a year, so she gets a bunch of drugs from her sketchy psychiatrist to basically put her to sleep for an entire year. That is this book. We're following her with her depression and her life, and she's a really shitty, terrible, unlikable main character, and we get to learn about her best friend who comes over, and about her mental illnesses. And I really enjoyed this book. It's a book about absolutely nothing. It's just all plot. It's all vibes. No plot, all vibes is what I meant to say. But yeah, I love books about unhinged, terrible, shitty, unlikable main characters who sleep, and I think that is very relatable to me. But I just love the way that this one was written, and how we also got to know about her best friend, and the ending I had some mixed feelings on, but overall I really like how weird and unhinged this book was. So not like Mona Awad weird, okay, to clarify, just like, why am I reading a book about a woman sleeping? That is that is this book. I can't explain it. It was good and I liked it, okay? Oh man, it is way too early in the morning. It's 7 o'clock now. It's just way too early for me to be doing this. I'm like, it's great. I loved it. Next. Okay, my next 4-star was A.W. Mason's new book, Judy Martin's Final Curtain Call. This is a horror book with some slight extreme horror elements to it. Also was in my vlog, but we're following Judy Martin. She was a Broadway, like famous Broadway girly, and now in present day, she's much older. She can't get any work. She's kind of washed up and like scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, she has this shitty agent that's trying to get her work, and she decides to audition for the local Macbeth play, and the audition goes horrible, and we just, it unleashes her feminine rage. We get to know about her and her previous husbands and like all of the men who have wronged her in her life, and she's kind of seeking revenge now. It's a little bit of a slasher, very gory at some parts, very heavy on some topics like regarding abuse. This book was so well written. There is a detective element that slowed it down a little bit, but overall, I really enjoyed this one. I just loved the feminine rage in this book. It was so well done. Then, are we moving into 5 stars? No, this one, I have a 4.5, okay? And it's Chandler Morrison's Until the Sun. I was like, I almost gave this book 5 stars, and then I was like, man, I didn't like it as much as his other books. Because, okay, let me backtrack here. Okay, so this is a vampire book, but like also Sweet Home Alabama. So we are following this kid who wakes up to a bunch of like vampires killing his foster parents. And it's written in second person. Oh, that's the thing that I didn't like about this book. I don't understand the second person narrative. I don't like second person narratives. It was weird. Well, he wakes up and his foster parents are being killed, and he's like, I don't care, I didn't like them anyway, they sucked. And then we find out that his real parents were killed by serial killers, and that's why he's living with his foster family. And then these vampires are like, hey kid, do you want to be one of us? Like, you can just be content with life and like not have any existential dread anymore. And like, he hates his life, so he agrees to become one of these vampires. And then we really learn, so that's like part one. And then part two, we really learn about him and his backstory with his family. And holy shit, it turns into like a drama, and I don't even want to say what happens because it's kind of like shocking, and I love that. Then part three happens, and part three I was absolutely obsessed with. I loved the way that this ended. I doubted this book. The first like part one, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I really wasn't a huge fan of like the actual characters and the vampire characters. I wasn't a big fan of them. And then the more that I kept reading, the more I just absolutely loved where this ended up going. I ended up loving everything about this. Part two, I was like really invested in because I was like, what the fuck is happening? Part three, I was absolutely obsessed. I was absolutely hooked by the drama that was happening in this book. And I think if you're a fan of Chandler's other books, excluding Dead Inside, I think if you're a fan of his other books that are, you know, like this book has some violence in it, but it's a little more low-key than like Dead Inside, for example. But I think if you are a fan of his other books and just like how he writes drama and relationship issues, and I don't even want to say what's going on in this one, but just how he writes characters in general, you're definitely gonna like this one. The more that I think about this book, the more I fucking love it. It was so well done. Okay, moving into 5-star books. Yay! Let's see. The first 5-star that I have, oh my god, I have 5 5-star books again. I'm like, what is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me that this has never happened before. Anyways, the first book is a memoir by Anna Marie Tendler called Men Have Called Her Crazy. This one is an arc that I got from NetGalley, and it comes out in August. But this book was so freaking good. So we're following Anna Marie Tendler, of course, you know, was married to John Mulaney. She tells us the story of her stay at a psychiatric hospital, and alternating between that story are some stories about her past relationships, like issues with men previous to her marriage and after her marriage. She doesn't even mention John Mulaney, by the way. She doesn't even give him the light of day. Okay, this is all about her other little like relationships that she's had here and there, and just how men have treated her, and like how much shit women deal with, and then it leads to us having a fucking nervous breakdown, and then people call us crazy. That's this book. And I really enjoyed the commentary on mental health and mental health care, and her stay and her reflections on her stay at that psychiatric hospital. I'm losing my mind because I'm starving. And I really enjoyed the commentary on that, and just what it's like being a woman in general, and how shitty relationships can be, and how each one of these relationships and these men in her life kind of shaped her into the person that she is today. And I just think that this was so beautifully done. I absolutely love this book. I mean, this is real life feminine rage sad girl book right here. Feminine rage sad girl book in a memoir. Definitely recommend this one. I mean, it was just really well done and relatable. And then my next one is Tampa by Alyssa Nutting. This is so fucked up, but this is about a woman teacher who grooms her male students, her male like 14-year-old students, into being in a relationship with her. It is very graphic, it is very sexual, it is disgusting, it is disturbing, but so incredibly well written, and really shows like the difference between gender, like when it's a man doing this versus how people react when it's a woman doing this. And I mean, this is just really disturbing, getting inside of a character's head like this, because it's so realistic, and sitting inside of her thoughts and how horrible of a person she is. I mean, I could not stop reading this book. It was so well written, so well done, and I just love authors who just don't give a fuck, you know? Like, I'm gonna tell this story and I don't give a fuck about the backlash. Like, Listen Nutting is that girl. Okay, anyways, then my next 5-star was Imperial Bedrooms by Bret Easton Ellis, the sequel to Less Than Zero. I absolutely loved this book so much. So we're following Clay from the first book, from Less Than Zero, and he's now a screenwriter, he's making a movie, and we're still following like him and his friends in present day now. And there's a murder that takes place. So this book kind of turns into a murder mystery. I don't really want to say too much else because I don't want to spoil anything from the first book, but it's once again exploring like bleak, depressing, fucked up, deep, dark territory, and I love that so much. Just love the way that this one was written. It just gives you more of that like nihilistic, bleak, depressing atmosphere, and Clay is such a terrible person and everyone is so terrible, and I love terrible people apparently. But I just loved the way that this actually had a plot compared to Less Than Zero. Less Than Zero is about pretty much nothing. But yeah, this book takes that ending from Less Than Zero that was disturbing and really builds upon that. This book is so disturbing. I loved it. I love that there were still some like open-ended questions that I had at the end that make me want to reread this book. I just think Bret Easton Ellis does that so well, where he always like leaves a little bit out that you don't know what's going on and it's up to your interpretation. And then it makes me want to like sit down and reread all of his books. I don't know what it is, but I just think that this was so well written. The last like paragraph of this book was so freaking good. Caught me off guard. So good. Like I sat here and I reread the last paragraph like 18 times. I never liked anyone and I'm afraid of people. I'm getting that tattooed on me somewhere. That'd be like, people would have questions for me. Then I have Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. This was also in my Unhinged Woman vlog, but this one is so good. We're following this little girl. She's 11 years old. She feels alienated. Her family's very abusive. She feels like the only person that really gets her and that she relates to is her cousin Yu. So they have a very deep bond, and now in present day, we're following her as she's in her 30s and she's married to someone who's asexual that she met on like a mutual arrangement website. And now she has the opportunity to go back and see her cousin Yu that she hasn't spoken to in like 20 years. So that's this book, and it is very sad, very gut-wrenching, the abuse that this main character suffers from, and we really get to know her and like her mental illnesses, and it was done so well. And commentary about society and going against societal norms and how women are treated, and you know, how people treat you when you're in your 30s and you don't have children. And I absolutely loved everything that this book had to say. It was handled so beautifully. The ending is the most unhinged, wild thing I've ever read in my life. I mean, this went into territory that I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? This was so unhinged, and I loved everything about it. This had the recipe for just everything I love. And then last but not least, I have The Book of X by Sarah Rose Etter, of course the author of the book Ripe, which is literally one of my favorite books of all time. And this one, we are following this girl who is born with her abdomen in a knot, and it is a genetic mutation that was passed down from her mother, who also has the same issue. Following her throughout her childhood, dealing with this mutation and basically how she's treated by boys and in school, and she's bullied in school for being a freak. And you know, her father has this meat quarry where there's like meat in the floor and the walls and they have to chop. It was really weird. But we're following just like her feelings and how she is treated in society, and then in present day, now she's much older and she's going to doctors and they're trying to figure out like how to cure her of this knot, and it's just the commentary of like being gaslit and going to doctors all the time who say that they know what they're doing and they don't. And it was extremely relatable for me, having a chronic illness and dealing with medical trauma pretty much every day of my life and having this mystery that no one can figure out. And it was so relatable. It was very depressing, very bleak. Just the way that she's treated by men. And I mean, this is just sad girl lit fic depression at its finest. It was so well written. It's very choppy though. Like, I don't know how to explain this. Like, see, there's just like paragraphs. It's written in this style where it's like one little paragraph she's doing this, then the next paragraph it's like some time later. So it is choppy in a way, I guess, but still like flows so beautifully. I can't explain it. It's like poetic without being over the top. There are some metaphors and things in this book that I don't quite understand, but I'm not someone that needs to understand every little thing in order to be obsessed with a book. And this is one that like really makes you sit and think, and I really love this book a lot. This has a special place in my heart because I found a lot of it to be relatable, like I said, just in terms of mental illness, body dysmorphia, and like medical trauma. This is so good. I don't know, I think this book might be out of print right now. I'm not sure. There are used copies on Amazon. I think barnesandnoble.com has it, if I'm not mistaken. There are some websites that have it. You kind of have to search for it though. If you live in the UK, I think she just re-released this with like a new cover and everything. So definitely be on the lookout for this book. If you can find a copy, definitely grab one. I mean, this book is so freaking good. Sarah Rose Etter is like the one author that gets me, I feel like. So yeah, anyways, that was it. That was my wrap up. Let me know your favorite book that you read in the month of May in the comments down below. I love you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!